Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Gulfstream today. Ron Nicoletti, joined by Ashley Mayu. The main track is fast. The turf course is good, and that's a good name because it's good that we're on the turf. And as my old buddy Jason Blue used to say, it's, how many is that? 11 palm tree day, which means it's a good day, Ashley, to have some racing.
Yeah, I was a little nervous. We've gotten rain the last couple of days, and today's card, when I looked at it as soon as the entries came out, is stellar. Just so many big fields. So fingers crossed that we were on the turf, and excited to see that we are.
Well, before we came on the air, they were just showing how lush and green the turf course looks. It really bounced back. It needed a lot of rain, and it got it, and I think it's going to be a fair day. Yesterday, the turf course played perfectly, so we'll see how this goes. We had so much to take care of this afternoon, but, you know, first of all, let's check out the payoff in the Stronach 5, $1,800. Every week I just see 10-8. One long shot in Pimlico, $19. That was it.
The last three races of the sequence really form full. I mean, $3, $4.85, $60. But the races at Pimlico, our sister track, who's gearing up for a big weekend next weekend, made that sequence, and that's a huge payout.
Yeah. I mean, if you do the whatever that is, add them all up, it's not going to be $1,800 to parlay, I should say. So taking care of that. And like I said, lots to get to in this morning show. 12 races. Let's quickly go to your early pick 5 ticket.
Looking at my ticket, as always, $36. I went 3 deep here in the opener, a 12-5 maiden claiming event, going a mile on the dirt. I'm going to use Maxi Moon, who I think will rebound. I also used the 4 and then the 6 Tone Feeling, who's my long shot. We'll talk about that one in a second. Race 2, I go 2 deep in here. I use the number 5 Gunman, who I think is going to be extremely tough out of the Mike Maker barn, as well as the number 8 Lucky as a 7. This one broke the maiden last time out for trainer at Wesley Ward. Now is going to get here on the turf course. Was racing at Turfway Park prior to that. Race 3, I went 2 deep. I used Shinani's Paintner of the Joe Orsino barn, as well as the number 5 Big Frank, who's going to make the first start since joining the barn of Safi Joseph Jr. Race 4, I used 2 in here. I used the number 1 Dutch Teddy, a $500,000 purchase, now owned by Stone Street and Harrow Ventures. This one's trained by Todd Pletcher. He sends out 2 in here. I think this is the more intriguing one. But out of the horses that have raced, I used the number 5, Rob Dunn, who was 3rd in his last 2 efforts, one of which was going a mile and an 1/8 on the turf here. And finally, race 5, $16,000 maiden claimers. I spread in here. Zaffings out of the Todd Pletcher barn. That's the 5. Looks extremely tough. But I used 2 horses at a price on the morning line. The one on the rail, Dora Princella, and the 11, Red Wind.
We're pretty much in agreement except for the number 6, your long shot, that's currently on the board in the first race at 3-1. One of the horses we'll touch on in here. I want everybody to know that when I was handicapping this card a couple of days ago, I was looking at the handicap and I said, boy, if the 13 horse ever gets in this race, this is going to be the horse to beat. So I added it at the end. You know, we do our selections beforehand. Just want to let everybody know, besides the 1, 3, and 11 to scratch, that 13 is going to get in. Give it a second look. Let's start it off in here with the horse you have on top, and that is Sadio.
Looking at Sadio's last race, finished 4th, beaten by 3.5. That was at that 12-5 level, going a mile. I just think, looking at his last couple efforts, it's kind of the common theme in this race. A lot of good performances, just not enough to get the job done. And I think looking at some others in here, he's been more consistent. I think you like Maxi Moon. I was disappointed with the effort last time out, favored. So Sadio, you know, was kind of last time out, ran a little bit better than I thought. He did make the lead. So I used him on top. It's always that barn angle too, Victor Barboza Jr.
With Maxi Moon, I'm just going 2 starts back where the horse ran exceptionally well at this distance. They stretched it out to the mile in the 16th, was 4th last time. So I just thought Maxi Moon might rebound at a mile today. I want to hear about the number 6 horse. Some people, a lot of people right now early on are in agreement with your long shot in here.
And in terms of my wallet, I hope that changes in a little bit. I was hoping I'd get a price on here. I mean, obviously, part of the appeal, Sammy Camacho does so tremendous down here in Florida, now over here at Gulfstream Park. But last time out in that $16,000 maiden claiming event, it was on the turf going long, a mile and an 1/8, and made up ground. He's done that in his last 2 efforts. He's had 2 great efforts. Now, the question is the dirt. Looking at his record, he hasn't really shown much. He had 1 good performance on the off-going, and that was a while back. But when I started looking at his numbers on the dirt, especially at Gulfstream Park West, I thought he could maybe hang in this group. I mean, some of those races were a bit tougher than today, so I used him thinking he'd be a price, and certainly not that right now.
Well, we'll see how it plays out very early on in the wagering. Somebody might have said, oh, Ashley likes this horse. Put a couple of bucks down. Go to the second, 5 on the grass. Claimers 3 and up. Non-winners of 2, 12-5 down to 10. If you're just joining us, turf all day, turf course listed as good. And you were right about number 5, Gunman, who's stepping up to face winners. Mike Maker, Edgar Zayas. Looks like it's going to be tough in this spot.
Before his last start, he was primarily going 2 turns on the turf, and he had a decent finish 2 starts back against 35,000 meeting claimers, and that was going a mile. But you see in those races, he was kind of forwardly placed. So on the cutback, they sent him to the lead, and it was kind of goodbye from there. So now staying at this 5-furlong distance, I just think this is a great spot to face winners for the first time. So enough for me to put him on top.
Well, a horse I bet last time is the number 7 today, Sope. I want to go back and show you what happened. I had my money. I was watching it. We were outside, and you're going to see the start here, number 4 this day. Dance is over right there just about. So I just thought this horse, I'm going to give it another chance. I just thought this horse would run well for Efren Loza Jr. I really respect the work he does. And just wanted to show you, after that big beginning, came back and sort of showed some late interest to finish 5th that day. I mean, you're absolutely right about Gunman. I just thought Sope might be worth another shot after that bad start. You can see just coming into the screen now. I just wanted to show that the horse didn't call it completely a day that afternoon. So, and I believe the logical second choice is the horse that you do have in second. That's Lucky as a 7, who's going back to the grass today.
Going back to the grass, made the debut on the dirt here at Gulfstream Park back in May. It was a good second behind Exchange Day. Then tried the turf in a maiden special weight event, so certainly stepped it up at Churchill and finished about mid-pack there. Now, those last 2, yes, they've been on the synthetic at Turfway Park, but I think they're good enough. It's Wesley Ward, Mario Pino. I always watch when they team up, especially here, and has a bullet drill on the 30th at Palm Meadows. So another one, has some early foot, may lock up with the other horse, Gunman, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, we'll be mentioning Wesley Ward a little later on in the lightning round. Had a milestone we'll talk about a little later on. We'll tease you with that. Third race this afternoon, a mile. Claimers 3 and up, non-winners of 2 in life. You start with your horse in here. Big Frank, I know this horse has been in a bunch of barns, back in Saffy's barn today.
Yeah, and speaking of joining Saffy's barn, I believe I have a stat to show you all right now for Big Frank. Trainer Saffy Joseph Jr. with maiden winners last time out. Now first off the claim. He wins at 43%, 6 for 14. He's 11 for 14 in the money. So that's 79% with a $2.08 ROI. You know, that was an interesting angle. When you start going in the formulator, you can look up things like this because, you know, he just broke his maiden. He joins a new barn, and that's a pretty strong number right there. Last time out, Junior Alvarado piloted this one, and the race flow set up beautifully for speed. This one was forwardly placed from the get-go, that 12.5 level. That was going a mile, sticking at the mile today. Going to be in for the $20,000 tag. I like that. And we've talked about Saffy and the riders that he uses. Edwin Gonzalez, they do quite well here.
Yeah, they've been doing very well. Edwin just joining us this spring. We flip-flop our exactly here with the 3 Shenani's Painter, who's sitting, I believe, on a winning performance after following that 12.5 maiden victory. Comes back, runs second at this level and distance for Joe Orsino. Paco Lopez in the saddle today. I think these are the logical 2 when you flip-flop them in your exacta. With that said, let's go to race number 4 this afternoon. And this one is about 7.5 furlongs on the turf, maiden special weight, 3-year-olds. Now, this is a nice little race here. You did go with Dutch Teddy, a $500,000 son of Midagliadoro.
It was tough. It was kind of a flip of a coin here because I think the other logical horse is Rob Dunn, who used on top. I think looking at Dutch Teddy, there is another Pletcher in here, and out of the Pletchers, I do think this one I prefer way more than Working Out, who I still see that you used a little bit further on your tickets. But Dutch Teddy, pretty steady breeze pattern. They've tried this one on the turf and the dirt at Palm Beach Downs and has a lot of work. So been certainly working for this debut. You mentioned the hefty purchase price. Todd Pletcher, debuting at 7.5 on the turf, I'm fine with. Wins at 14% with first-time turf runners. Then Paco in the saddle has the inside. So it'll be interesting to see what trip this sort of horse gets because we don't really know what we're seeing.
Yeah, you know, in Working Out, the other horse you mentioned from Todd Pletcher, you know, he's a lad, he's the son of Uncle, outworked by Uncle Mo. Debuts Lasix, but Edgar Zeiss usually rides first call for him. So I just thought it was a little interesting that I wanted to mention that Edgar's going to be on Working Out with Dutch Teddy. Not that he's not getting a good rider with Paco Lopez, so I don't know how much you read into that. With all of that said, I put the number 5, Rabdan, on top of my ticket. Is turning back to the about 7.5 today. Solid career debut at a mile and an 8th, in which he set the pace. He finished 3rd. That's tough to do when you're going a mile and an 8th. Gustavo Delgado adds blinkers for this assignment. I like the turn back. I like the blinkers. And I love the work that Gustavo Delgado does. He's not known for turf races, but this horse ran so well. I think he's got a big shot today.
He certainly kind of put it all together. I think last time out it was just going a mile and an 8th. And you've mentioned the cutback already, so I don't need to say that anymore. If you look at that race, 7.5 might have been the right distance on that day. You know, you've highlighted everything here, so I don't want kind of, keep on going about it. But even his effort 2 back at the 7 furlongs on the dirt, we talked about Bears Watching was a pretty big winner in that score at that maiden special weight level. So I think his last 2 have been great, and I'm excited to see him today. But I was torn. So this is always dangerous when we flip-flop here.
Yeah, two horse, I came this close to putting the 2 horse in third here, 50 Shades of Gray. I thought this horse was a logical contender in the spot this first-time starter from Carlos David, who had a first-time starter win yesterday.
He did, and I think he had one last week. He does a tremendous job with firsters, and the workouts, there's not many of them, but they're all pretty good. A couple of them out of the gate, even 2 back, 48 and 4, breezing out of the gate over the dirt. I like what I see in the barn you have to use, and we've already mentioned it, Sammy. That's an interesting angle to consider as well.
Well, let's go to race number 5, 1 mile on the turf. Maiden claim is Fillies and Mastering up $16,000 in here. Scratch all the alsos, 13 down to 16. You went 3 deep in here. I just thought that people are going to be, everybody in America might be thinking of singling the number 5 Zapping on the drop to the 16 level.
I have reservations because I can remember earlier at the spring summer meet, Todd did something similar and the outcome was not favorable. And you look at the last couple races, to me, especially last time out, this one flattened at a mile and a 16th. I thought I would have seen a little bit more, was favored, going second time, going long, might have had more left in the tank late and didn't. And actually looking at the fractions, didn't think they were that fast. So I was certainly disappointed with the last effort. Still using this one on top because that's 35,000 maiden claimings, now dropping to 16. But you're right, I spread in here because if anyone can beat this horse, I hope it's a price.
Yeah, and I wouldn't sing this horse either. I was just saying that people are going to do that because I've been beaten so many times with a Todd horse that looks exactly like this on paper. The horse you have in second, I think, has a big shot, Red Wing, who's stretching out to the mile. Rallied and finished a really solid 4th for Antonio Sano.
Last time out, it was a really good performance. I thought the trip had a little problem out of the gate, and then from there was able to recover and just missed by a length and a quarter. And I think we both liked this one, thought this one was sneaky last time out, and it seemed like the drop certainly helped. Second time going 7.5 furlongs as well. I don't think 10-1 is probably what we'll get. I'm thinking more in the ballpark of maybe 6-1.
Yeah, second time blinkers, first time Romero Mirage, and Dora Princella is going to wear blinkers today, responded to the drop down. Also ran well, and you got to look at everything that Kelsey Danner sent. So if if, like you said, if you spread in your early Big 5, this is one they sort of have to use on your ticket.
She's been closing from both, from the back of the pack in both of those races too. So now you see the equipment change of blinkers on, might get her involved more early in the race, and now she's got the inside draw. So I'm hoping she still sits maybe off the pace, just isn't, kind of last early on.
Well, we're going to race number 6, a mile allowance, optional claim of Fillies Mastery and up, or the optional claiming price of $25,000. 6 in the field, and that's about the only race that has 6 in the field today. We got some big fields that we had a handicap, and I just think the number 1, Don't Get Cozy, wheeling back, breaking from the rail again, followed at second. Broke a little differently last time out, so I think Antonio keeps the Edgard in there. I'm a little afraid of the inside post.
I'm slightly concerned with that too, and just looking at the run style, I think that's where we get our concerns from. But looking at the field as a bunch, I do think she's the most consistent filly in the group. I mean, you can't really pick on her last 5, 6, 7, 8 races. She's been there every single time. She's 5 for 5 in the money this year. She was a 4-time winner last year. She certainly made 17 starts, which is on the higher end of the spectrum, but she's always going to be closing from off the pace. And I think from a buyer perspective, she does have some of the best figures in the field.
Well, the number 2, Champagne Salute, is stepping up to face winners after responding to that stretch out from 7 to 8 furlongs with that game, a special weight victory. I think was 40 cents to the dollar, being the daughter of Run Happy, Emissy Al Jaramillo in the irons today.
And even her debut at the 7 Ace, it was disappointing, but she didn't take a lot of play. The winner was Passes Champagne, who raced in the Kentucky Oaks, and the runner-up, another woman, came back to break the maiden next time out. So it was a pretty productive event. You mentioned last time out, a nice performance, kept to task throughout to get the job done. And it's Todd Pletcher now with horses that won last time out, 22% back in the winner's circle.
Yeah, Todd's got a lot of horses entered this afternoon. The 6 Harris Indy, I think you're thinking the same way I did, as a candidate for a rebound performance because of the connections. Terry Pompey does a great job.
Yeah, it was coming out of that 6.5, stretching out to mile, and I think something maybe want to miss. So just for a minor share only in here.
Let's take a short break. When we come back, it is mandatory payout in the Rainbow Six. So both Ashley and I will show you our tickets, and somehow we both ended up with $64.80. Let's see how they compare. We'll be right back.
12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Ashley and Ron or Ashley, whoever way you want to look at it. And as I mentioned, mandatory payout, expecting over $2 million today. I'm so glad the races are going to be on the turf. Makes this thing such a great bet. And, of course, it's got to go today. Let's show you our tickets. And, Ashley, you can start with yours. You'll see we sort of have, well, not too much agreement in the first leg.
Yeah, we're very different here. We both use the number 11 in here, Splash Town. This is a first-time starter out of the Todd Pletcher barn. And talk about a huge pedigree. This is a half-brother to Gamine. You can see on the bottom side, Peggy Jane. I mean, just a beautiful pedigree here. Some bullet drills. I also use two other horses in here, Long Shot, Billy Yank, and the number 8, Candy Fury. And I see you take a interest in another big pedigree.
Yeah, you see how these horses run in that opening leg. And in race number 8, I did go 3 deep in there. And you did. We're sort of in agreement with the 7 and the number, 11. So 7-11 in that race.
Yeah, so you both use Swing West and I Capote. And then in race 9, we are in the same horses here. We both like Setting the Mood, who had a strong third last time out, as well as the number 7, Crystal Coast.
Yeah, those look like a logical contenders. Race number 10, when we were doing this for YouTube yesterday, this is the race that scares me. I went 3 deep in there with the 8, 7, and the number 6, You're the Best.
Yeah, we talked about the number 8, Sassy Beast. Technically won last time out at this level. Is going to have to redo that performance after getting DQ'd. You know, you use the 7 as a little bit of a price in there, and I use the 2. But again, we're pretty much in agreement. And then in race 11, we take different, I guess, trips here. I go 3 deep in my ticket. I use the 8, 10, and the 12, Fulmini. And mind you, this is the English Channel, a really nice stakes race. And you use, I know, the likely favorite, Yes This Time, as well as a price.
Yeah, and I like Garitano this afternoon. I thought this horse was going to run well. I was looking to get a little bit of a price. And as I mentioned, too, I had to have Yes This Time on there. The one that I left off that you did use was Hyper Focus, the number 8 horse. I did that. And another horse from Todd Pletcher, very dangerous. Only 2 deep in the last for you.
Only 2 deep. I think it's Keep Quiet's race to really win. I mean, this is a really nice French-bred filly and strong numbers in this field. So it's hard not to use a $500,000 winner. But then there's also the number 11, Digital Footprint, who's has a solid record this year and just in general over the Gulfstream Park turf course, but needs a little bit more to find himself in the winner's circle.
Well, race number 12, I love my long shot this afternoon, or I should say like a lot. And that is the number 5, Philo. I'm going to show you a replay later on, so I think that horse is good, got a shot in that particular race. So we'll see how it plays out. Well, let's get into race number 7. We showed you our tickets. Got lots going on today. I did go with the number 10, Maddie's Dream, who's coming off the solid career debut in which he recovered from trouble at the start. He was good for Mauricio Fuentes, Lionel Reyes in the saddle.
You can see he's got one workout since then, nothing too speedy, but the debut was very strong, especially in a spot where he didn't take much attention. You talked about the pedigree a little bit, and that's where I went. I went to the 11. I already alluded to this. Splash Town is just a beautiful pedigree in here. It's a half to Gamine, and the workout tab is, to me, is pretty good. It's one out of the Todd Pletcher barn, so always hard to ignore, and especially here, I mean, debuting at a one-turn distance that Todd does very well with these horses.
Well, the number 4 horse in here, Nuzat, is a half-brother to Latruska, who defeated Monomoy Girl in the Grade 1 Apple Blossom. I just couldn't believe how fast this horse broke last time out. Let's go back and look. I just thought there was a, first time ever race, so we'll go back and show you the start. It sort of looks like this horse was shot out of a cannon. When you can see it just goes. It looked pretty good in the race. That is the number 7 there. So he went up, and he was just on the lead. There was a little trouble finding those horses behind, sort of clipped heels a little bit. Now this horse was still game. Remember, this is his first lifetime start. I thought he was pretty good turning for home. Of course, it didn't fare that well through the stretch. I just thought with a chance for Fausto Gutierrez, who of course trained Latruska, maybe this horse, a little bit sneaky, comes back. Of course, got a little tired in the stretch. He's the son of Street Sense. Miguel Vasquez, I believe, will be in the saddle this afternoon. So I'm going to go back and use that horse on my ticket.
Certainly think there's room for improvement. That was a debut, and there was nothing really wrong with it other than tiring and staying at the distance and staying at the level, I think, is key. And then from here, I used the horse coming out of California, the number 8, Candy Fury, who's got the best buyers in the figure, was second last time out in the field, I should say. That was against the $50,000 level. I'm not really sure what he faced out there, and I think this is actually a pretty tough field in general, but Paco Lopez is going to climb aboard, so I found that a little bit intriguing.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with that horse, of course, like a lot of these races today, just so wide open, especially especially in the Rainbow Six situation, and that does not change in race number 8. It's a mile claimer, 3 and up, $6,250. 11 horses in the field. The 7's going to be ridden by Paco Lopez. These races have been the bane of my existence. Since I've been in Florida. These are such hard-knocking campaigners. With all that said, we're exactly in agreement in the exacta.
This is shocking. I think Swing West, just a consistent runner. I mean, he was second last time out. He was picked out of that event. Prior to that, he had a third where he's beaten by 3/4 of a length. Capote was able to finish right in front of him in that race, but he seems to be running well here, and he was coming out of some races in Ohio where he was hitting the board every single time. He had a win streak there in 2 races, or I should say one there, and then came over here. And, he's been a little bit more towards the front end, I would say, in his last 2 races here, which could just be the way the track plays here at Gulfstream Park. But the consistency angle, he just is a tough horse.
Yeah, and the barn is very good first off the claim. Capote just beat the neck with Peter Walder, Chantel Sutherland in the saddle today. Certainly looked like the logical tune there. I use Candy Crush him in third, who goes to the Gilberto Zerpa barn and breaks from the rail, chased the pace last time out. And, had to steady a little bit at the 3/4 pole, went 6 behind Capote and Swing West. Zerpa, one of those guys. There's about 4 guys. You look down first off the claim there, over 30%.
It's incredible. I was a little concerned. I used him a little further back because I thought that first time in that class drop from those other races that he was in January and February would have been enough. But he went to the front. He wasn't trying to close from off the pace in there, and he seemed to be just empty in the lane. And, a couple others beat him in here. So I did still use him, though, because if he goes back to some of his earlier races, say last year here in the spring, he could be tough.
Let's go to race number 9 today. We're back on the turf, a mile on the turf. These are claimers, fillies and mares, 3 and up, non-winners of 2 in life, $20,000 down to $16,000. And Crystal Coast on the drop looks pretty tough.
I think this is the horse to beat. I think the main rival is the other horse that we used, the number 2, Setting the Mood. But Crystal Coast last time out, that was going 7.5, going a little shorter than today's distance, and it was a tough group. Now, if you go 2 races back, she almost won. She missed by just a neck in there. Pretty nice 3-year-old filly, and that was going back at that mile distance. So I think in the 2 races that she hasn't fared well, she's been in some deep waters, and this is going to be some major class relief.
And Carlos David, Sammy Camacho, and then you saw our Rainbow Six tickets. We both used the 7 and the 2 here, and Setting the Move going to Safi's barn after the claim, turning back to the mile, made that middle move to challenge for the lead before finishing third against Similar, going a mile in the 16th. Safi's good with everything. He's over 20% with the new additions to the shed row. But I want to go back real quickly and show you the number 6 horse in here. Map him up. He's hoping for clear sailing this afternoon. And you're just going to show from the top of the stretch to the wire. Look at the fractions that this horse was setting. They were going quick. 22 and 1, 45 flat. And I just thought this horse, well, it gets sort of bumped there in the stretch a little bit. And weakened to finish 4th. A dead heat for 4th, actually. I just thought setting those fractions had that little bit of trouble last time out. Maybe we'll get this horse on the engine and he can maybe steal or get a part of it for sure.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't go that fast. Those were some wicked fractions. I mean, the entire race was really fast. So considering with all that said, it was still a good performance to finish 4th. I went in a little bit of a different direction with the price with the number 10, Beauty Genius, coming out of 2nd place finish. Again, similar competition as terms of the conditions at Tampa. I think we'll still need to improve here to get a piece.
Let's go to race number 10, 6 furlong sprint, claimers, fillies, and mares. 3 and up, non-winners of 2 in life, 20 down to $16,000. You do have a scratch in here of the number 3 horse in here. And Sassy Beat is wheeling back after proving, as we mentioned when we were showing our tickets, this one was disqualified and placed second. So this horse knows how to get to the finish line first. Just got to do it in a straight path.
Definitely has to do that this time. I just think looking at that performance last time out, this one has some early foot in looking at the other horse in the field. I think she can do the same thing once again. I think she can get to the front and try to take him gate to wire and hopefully can hang on again. And I like that Edwin Gonzalez is staying aboard.
And David Fork's barn has really been going great guns at the spring meet. Not that it doesn't all the time. And what about the number 2 horse? A horse I did not use. I've actually got to look at these PPs right now.
It's another one out of the Rob Smith barn. Maybe this is my angle with some Tampa shippers. One on debut and did it quite decisively. It was a compact field. It was going 6 furlongs on the main track at Tampa, and it just set up pretty well for speed. But But looking at that most recent race, yes, it was all the way back in January going 7/8. But I think the big thing there, facing winners for the first time, was towards the front of the field, and the race really set up for horses that were kind of stalking mid-pack. That's where the winner came out of, Badar, and then Badar had a pretty big performance next time out, and she's actually gone on to win 2 more races since that January 10th effort. So just kind of seeing how that winner had stacked up against the field. So for me, I was looking for a price, and this is an interesting horse, I think, on those 2 starts from her.
Yeah, and I was looking back at that race, too. Another couple of horses came out to win, too, so it was a pretty good race up there at Tampa Bay. The number 7, Beauty Queen, is dropping to the 16 level on the main track today. Tracked those swift fractions last time out, finished 4th against the 25 claimers, going 5 on the grass. It's Carlos David. You got the apprentice in here, Renee Diaz, going to get in awful light this afternoon.
Wasn't sure what to do with this one. Won the maiden on debut, and that was here on the dirt, going 4.5, and was able to sit off the pace and make up ground to win by almost 2. And the last efforts they've been on turf, they've been good. The other dirt race, I have to draw a line through with it because it was a pretty tough group at Gulfstream Park West. The works are good, but I didn't know what to do, so I'm a little scared. I kind of decided to throw this one out of my tickets.
Well, what about the horse that's named after you? You're the best.
I don't know about that. We'll see after I get through this card if I can catch the Rainbow Six. You're the best out of the Victor Barboza Jr. barn, and last time out was able to score the maiden in start number 8. That was going 6.5, though, at Tampa. The races here, they've most of the time been okay. Had a 3rd place finish on the slop all the way back in September, and then more recently 2nd behind Compt. I thought this horse was just good enough in here to get a minor placing, and the barn, we talk about this, they do quite well with horses that won last time out, winning at 26%.
Really nice feature race this afternoon. It comes in race number 11, 1 mile and 16th on the turf for 3-year-olds. It's the $75,000 guaranteed, the English Channel. And you're absolutely right, and I think a lot of people are, the morning line, that yes, this time is the one to beat. We'll go back and show you this horse's last race, and this is just going to show you it's a sort of just a beauty shot. This was its 3rd consecutive victory, and had a little challenge here at the top of the stretch, but that was about it that day.
It was about it, and the big thing was it was very different from his other wins where he'd been forwardly placed and basically on the lead throughout. Was able to sit mid-pack early on and make ground up, which I like seeing. You like seeing this out of a horse, maybe showing another dimension, and certainly did it and kicked clear in the stretch to win in a big way.
Well, I know you have a stat on Mr. Kelly Breen.
I was curious. You look at this horse, he's won 3, hasn't tried a stakes race yet. So I want to see what Kelly does with winners last time out that are now going to step up, and specifically here, a non-graded stakes race. Wins at 24%. So it's 12 for 51, 47% in the money with a $2.64 ROI. So pretty good numbers off of that. And, we're going to see if this one can go for 4 in a row today. That's a tall task.
You can find some great stuff in the formulator when you start looking around, so always get good stats. I got a horse in here, actually made it my best bet of the day, so that's how goofy I am, and that is the number 9, Cartano. And I'll tell you why. This one's going to stretch out to the mile and the 16. I thought a trio of really well-meant performances going a mile includes that narrow defeat behind that repeat winner, Uncle Fun, who came back to run a really game second yesterday. Thought that horse was going to win, just couldn't get up there. Once again, Efren Loza Jr., Paco Lopez trying to turn the tables on the logical choice in there, yes, this time. So I just think the race sets up perfectly this horse this afternoon. I was trying to get a price, and see if I can get it done here. And as I mentioned when I was doing my Rainbow Six ticket, I left Hyper Focus off. I think I'm going to have to use this horse on my B ticket.
He's one of a couple exiting the Cutler Bay here, which was on Florida Derby Day. And this one, you kind of look at the finishers. I used the 12 Flamini, who finished 2nd there at a huge price. But Hyper Focus, you look at that, was able to close and only missed by a length and a quarter. I thought it was a good performance, and that was going a mile. I think the mile and a 16th will suit him well today. And his other turf effort, he won here, and it was a pretty big performance to get up by a neck in the end. So 5-1 on a Pletcher and Zayas. If I can get that combination at that price, I'm sold.
You're not getting that, so sorry to say it. Let's go to the last race on the card. If a mile and the 16th on the turf, claim is 3 and up, $12,500. And you're right. Number 4, Keep Quiet, the French bred, is strictly the one to beat on paper.
Yeah, 2 times in the winner's circle this year, only had 1 poor start, and that was 2 back. And honestly, I'm not too sure what went wrong other than traffic. Had some traffic in there to finish 6th, beaten by 6.5. Kind of looking at the other horses in here, there. We're very different from here.
Yeah, so I want to go back and talk to you about, or show you my long shot in here. Philo is going to stretch out today, one of its most distance. Now, bangs the gate. There you see the number 13 at the start. So ends up having to be last in the race. But I'm going to pick it up, turning for home. This horse is 5 wide. It just comes flying through the stretch. Had that trouble at the start, out there near the popcorn stand, and this one just keeps running and runs just a bang-up race at 7.5 furlongs. Just can't reel in the 8-5 shot right there, projected, the British bred. And I just thought for a price, after having a bad start, and if you watch the race throughout, this horse was never, ever closer than 5 or 6 wide in the whole race.
I totally skipped over this horse, and you show the replay. I mean, it is a pretty big performance. The other races on that were against cheaper, but they were on the dirt, and they were at Tampa. Comes over here, gets on the turf, and certainly ran a huge, huge race at a big price. So I don't think you're going to get the price that you got last time out, but, I mean, anywhere near this would be a really good value horse.
Well, tell me about the number 11, who I didn't use. Just like you said, we're a little wide open in this spot.
The 11 trained by Bill Thornenos usually spends his summers and springs up at Woodbine and Fort Erie. Kind of looking at this one, he claimed this one maybe 2 back, thinking he'd send this one up north, but obviously racing's not there, so might as well stay here at Gulfstream Park. They raced this one back in late April, finished 4th, beaten by a length and a quarter, but it was against tougher competition. Look at that race 2 back. There's no way that he can't fit in this group. It was a huge win by a neck. Prior to that, he had a second, where he's beaten by a neck again, so he's going to close from off the pace. Looking at some of his races, he's been a little bit closer, so I like his versatility. I like that Edgar Zeiss is climbing back aboard, piloted into his most recent win as well.
Well, we're just wide open in last, which makes it fun. So that's how we see the 12-race card, and we'll be out throughout the afternoon trying to give you some useful updates, but we're not done. We got our lightning round today, and of course, as you mentioned at the top, we got a big weekend next weekend up at Pimlico. Of course, it's the Preakness Stakes, and we got some information with Luis Saez, who's going to ride Pletcher-trained Unbridled Honor in the Preakness. There's a good-looking kid, Luis Saez, so just an absolute great rider. So things are starting to come together out there, who's going to run, who's not going to run. So we just thought we'd point that out, that Luis Saez, you can't go wrong having him on your ticket.
You can't. The things that he's accomplished, whether it's the championship meets here or overseas, he's just so competitive, and you said it, he's such a nice human being as well. So it'll be interesting to see what the field ends up looking like. As you mentioned, there's horses going, they're not going. We're still not sure.
Well, we'll find out by Monday. That is for sure. We teased a little bit about Wesley Ward, and Wesley Ward got his 2000 training victory. And I had to get one of the pictures with the top hat.
Yeah, when you see him overseas, right at Royal Ascot, he's got the top hat. Just looked back at some of the horses that he's trained. I mean, Judy the Beauty, probably the best one that he trained in his barn, as well as undrafted. But he had some other horses, Golden Pal, 4-wheel drive. He's had some really tremendous horses in his barn. And we all know whenever you see Wesley Ward 2-year-olds in Kentucky, you got to watch out.
Yeah, and he went to Europe, and of course, Ascot, and they said American trainers can't win there, and he just took them all to the woodshed. He's been training well, and congratulations. And another guy, a good guy, and we get to see him a lot down here because he's got his farm up there in Florida. He's got one in Kentucky, too. And Chad Brown, he's making a little bit of a change. He's going to have risk-taking enter, as we mentioned, into the Preakness Stakes. So this one, the Grade 3 Withers winner, and it's Chad Brown. You always got to take a look.
Yeah, decided to opt for this spot rather than another one. I think that's just the way that the field's shaping up, and I'm excited to see this one run at the Preakness. That has probably a decent shot in there.
And one other horse that we wanted to talk about, you pointed this out to me, Pacific Gale, the winner of the Gulfstream's Grade 3 Hurricane Birdie and the Inside Information Grade 2, is entered to run today in the Grade 3 Vagrancy.
2 for 2 this year, and just big performances.
Yeah, just incredible. So we'll see how this plays out. It's going to be a great day of racing. About 24 minutes to post, so we'll be turning it over to Pete Aiello with all the scratches and jockey changes. Good luck today, and we'll be back in just a little while.